So you can, is the audio video clear? Yeah, you can type to the ID SK from where I had logged in. So please type it to that ID and we can proceed with the class.
Yes, sir. Audio clear, sir.
What is it?
Audio video clear, sir.
Clear. Okay, thank you. Just give me a minute. I'm just searching for my stylus. Yeah, it is here. Okay. Yeah. So we'll continue with our discussion of elections where we stopped yesterday. We'll just take it forward. Okay. So we had discussed one issue yesterday. We had discussed about one issue that was about because political parties are a very essential component of this electoral system in India. So we discussed something about the problems associated with political parties in India, right? But political parties are not a very homogeneous entity. Political parties, they are classified into three different types. Okay, they are classified as registered political parties. They are registered. They are categorized as registered. See, the first, all political parties have to be registered with the Election Commission of India. That's the fundamental rule under Section 29A of Representation of People's Act 1951. But after getting registration, after being registered, you can be recognized into various classes. Let's say you, a political party like DMK, is it a national party? Because there are two ways of recognition given by Election Commission. So one is, a party can be recognized as a national party or it can be recognized as a state party. Okay, so DMK is recognized as a state party, whereas Communist Party of India or Bharatiya Janata Party, those parties are recognized as national parties. So is there any law? Is there any law which recognizes political parties as national parties and state parties? So see, if the Election Commission does something, it has to be done as per the law, right? So my question is, does the Election Commission under any particular law recognize a party as a national party or as a state party? That is my question. What would be your answer? Do we have any such laws which recognizes, classifies parties into these kind of categories? What is your opinion? What is your answer? RP Act. Well, no. It is not based on representation of people. See, an act is a very broader instrument. Look at the provisions of the act. The act talks about criteria for qualification, criteria for disqualification. There's those kind of matters which should be discussed. But giving a status to a political party as a national party, as a state party, these are procedural matters. These kind of things will not be governed or will not be mentioned directly in a particular act. So can you recollect the important statutes and constitutional provisions that deal with election? In the last class, I have told you, in the Constitution, you have provisions from 324 to 329. And when it comes to statutory instruments, you have Representation of People's Act 1950, 1951. In addition to that, you also have conduct of election rules. And then lastly, you have something called as election symbols, allocation and reservation and allotment order, right? So did we discuss that? You have four different instruments. Did we discuss or we did not discuss? Are you completely unaware of something called as conduct of election rules? Yeah, we did discuss, right? It is on the no, sir. Oh, did I not mention it? Did I not mention these the name called as conduct of election rules? Did I not discuss with you about something called as election symbols, reservation and allotment order? Yeah, it was already mentioned. It was already mentioned. So okay, let me share my screen and we'll go about with our discussion. There's some problem with my system here. Just give me 2 minutes. I'll just sort it out. Sorry. Yeah, can you hear me now? Can you see me? Audio, video, is it fine? Can you proceed? Yes, okay. You can type as usual in the chat box. So I'll just take class from here. Okay. So yes, I wanted to share my screen. Here is whiteboard. In the last class, I was discussing with you when it comes to legal instruments, elections in India, preparation of electoral rolls, qualification and disqualification of members, all that is governed by certain constitutional provisions and certain laws made by Parliament, right? So what are they? I think I had given you the list last class. What I was saying is, one is, of course, there are some constitutional provisions. So we have discussed what are those provisions yesterday, the last class. In addition to that, you have laws such as Representation of People's Act 1950 and 1951. Right. But RP 1950 and 51 also gives powers in the hands of Election Commission to make rules for day-to-day matters relating to relating to conduct of elections. Because a law cannot discuss about all day-to-day affairs and day-to-day minute procedures. All that cannot be discussed in a law made by Parliament. That is why the power has been given in the hands of Election Commission to make rules for those purposes. Okay, so Election Commission has made a rule called as Conduct of Election Rules. In addition to that, when it comes to who shall get what symbols, for what period of time a symbol can be kept reserved for a political party, what should be the criteria for BJP to be given the status of a national party, what are the benefits that will be reaped by a party if it is recognized as a national party, what are the benefits that it can possibly get, all those kind of matters are mentioned in a different rule made by Election Commission. It is called as Election Symbols. First, you have to reserve the symbol, correct? Symbols have to be reserved, reservation and allotment. Then the symbol is allotment order. So it is based on this election symbols reservation allotment order. Certain parties are categorized as state parties, certain parties are categorized as national parties. So what are the criteria? What is the criteria to be recognized as a state party and national party? I'll leave it to you. It is very simple. You can just browse it online and you can find it out. Okay, what are the criteria? So, but instead what I'll do is I'll tell you what is the advantage of a party being recognized. So let's say there are three parties. One is you have BJP, then you have DMK, then you have Naam Tamlar Kachi, right? These are three different parties. BJP is a national party. It is recognized as a national party. DMK recognized as a state party. Naam Tamlar Kachi is not recognized. It is only registered. That's all. It is not recognized as a state party or a national party. Basically, the criteria of being recognized as a state party and national party is your performance in the elections. If you perform very well, if you're able to win at least 4 seats in Lok Sabha elections or in assembly elections, okay, at least if you're capable of winning some seats, it means that you are a serious party. So a party starts from just a registered party. It starts from here, then it moves on to become a state party. So being registered as a state party, recognized as a state party, if you are able to win a good number of seats in 4 states, okay, it means that you are even bigger than a state party. You have to be given elevated to the next level, which is the third level. That is, you are recognized as a national party. So what is the criteria to be registered as a state party, as a national party? It's a factual criteria. You have to maybe browse it and you can find it, or it can even be available in your Lakshmikant also. You can find that. But I don't think they'll ask you such questions in the examination. But for the sake of understanding, appreciating what kind of a performance a party should actually show in the state polls, so that it can be registered as a state party. Okay, இந்த அளவுக்கு நல்லா ஓட்டுவாங்கன்னா it can be registered as a state party. Just to know that, maybe you can browse it and find it out. But understand, this is how a party progresses. First, it gets just simply, first it starts with a group of people. They want to get their party registered. They apply in a prescribed format before Election Commission of India under Section 29A. They subscribe to the values of democracy. They get registered. They get their political party registered. And after that, they start fighting elections, they lose. They're not able to win votes. But after 10 years, after 20 years, slowly the party's election results are promising. Slowly it wins 4 seats in the assembly elections. So now it gets recognized as a state party. Then again, so now it shows very good performance in that particular state. Maybe it is even able to capture power in that particular state. So now people in the neighboring states also might be attracted if it has a very inclusive agenda. Do you think Keralites and Kannadigas will vote for Nam Tamil Katchi? Do you think Keralites and Kannadigas will ever vote for NTK in their state? Will it even happen? So it depends. It depends upon the reach of the political party. So if a party is able to be accepted in the neighboring states, also in any other state, also maybe its vision of corruption, fighting against corruption, is something which appeals to a broader audience. If that is the case, then maybe it can even win a good number of seats in the other states also. So if it is recognized as a state party in 4 or more states, then it definitely deserves more respect than just be labeled as a state party. Then it is recognized by the Election Commission of India as a national party. Okay. So why am I discussing all these things? Yes. Why am I discussing all these things? It's just to point out what is the advantage that you get if you are registered and recognized as a national party and state party. Do you know anything? What advantage BJP and DMK enjoy compared to Nam Tamil Katchi? What is the advantage? Anybody? Yes, that's a good answer. Number of star campaigners. That is very correct. Allotting a permanent symbol. Okay, that is also correct. You cannot call it as a permanent symbol. It is actually, you can call it as a reserved symbol, not a permanent symbol. And allotment of election symbols as they wish. Allotment of time in state media. Very good answer. Allotment of time in state media, in Doordarshan, in All India Radio. Dedicated time slots will be made available to BJP. Okay, so during elections, during campaign period, a particular time will be given to national party, so they can actually go and reach out. Being recognized as a national party, now you have easier access to reach out to a lot of people. Okay, so yeah, these are some of the advantages. And in addition to that, that is another very good answer. Access to electoral rolls. That is a very correct answer. It's if you are if you're from a recognized political party, from a state, either you are recognized as a state party or a national party. Okay, first let me ask you another question. Do we have state funding of elections in India? Does the state fund elections in India? Do we have state funding of elections? No. Okay. Well, the government does fund elections. The government also takes a certain care of expenses, but it's not a direct monetary funding. It's in the indirect way that in India also we have state funding of elections. Like when the government prints electoral rolls of their constituency and supplies it to registered not registered, to national or to state parties, when the government prints electoral roll and gives it to them for free. Okay, so it means that government is incurring expenses for the benefit of national and state parties. So yes, indirectly there is an element of state expenditure when it comes to elections in India, even though it may not be direct monetary support given to all parties. So that is not the kind of support, but yes, we do have indirect state funding for elections. So that way, one expense that the state incurs is giving electoral rolls for free for candidates belonging to national and state parties. In addition to that, reserving certain time slot in state-run media like Doordarshan and All India Radio. So government is spending money to run those channels, right? So giving political parties, national state parties, a certain time slot in the channel run by state is basically an example of state incurring expense for the benefit of these two parties. So yes, so you can find that this is how national parties and state parties are already at an advantage when you compare it with registered parties. So through you can get these kind of benefits. In addition to that, there are certain other benefits. What are those benefits? The benefit is that if this is the EVM machine, okay. So have you people cast vote in these elections? Did you guys cast vote in the elections this time? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. So do we have any aspirant here whose in whose constituency there was a BJP or Congress candidate who contested elections? Do we have any aspirant? In your constituency, was there a BJP or a Congress candidate? Did they contest elections this time? Oh, you have. Okay. All right. So if you have, then so tell me when you saw the EVM list of candidates, whose name came on the first? Whose name was on the first? Which candidate's name was on the first? Oh, Congress won in MP elections in by-election. All right. Okay. Oh, MP seat. So you're from Kanyakumari, Ashwin. Yeah. So whose name? So I think Pon Radhakrishnan's name was the number one candidate in the place where you had voted, Ashwin. Who was the number one candidate? It was BJP, right? In BJP, see, it's basically so Ashwin is from Kanyakumari. So there he found for the first candidate was Pon Radhakrishnan. Okay, so he belongs to which party? He belongs to BJP. The second candidate would have been INC candidate Vijay Vasant. His name is Vijay Vasant, right? Vasant Kumar's son. Yeah, Vijay Vasant. So his name will be the second in line, INC candidate. So why does this? And after that, you will have other parties and other candidates. So the benefit of having recognized as a national party is that in the EVM, in the ballot box, in the list of candidates contesting elections, first priority is for national parties. So the first in line will be national parties. Second will be state parties. So there you can have all the state parties, AAMMK. Sorry, even that is not registered as a state party, recognized as a state party. So you can have other parties, probably VCK, or you can have MDMK maybe, or Vijay Gand's party, DMDK. So all these state parties, DMK, ADMK, all these parties will be there. They will be second in order, followed by registered political parties, and at the end of it, you will have an independent candidate. Okay, this is the order. So it might be this might be the case. So if this is the case, mostly this itself gives national parties an advantage when you compare to state parties, and state parties an advantage compared to registered parties. A voter, when he goes there, he will not go because a voter works on a shortage of time. Everybody is looking at him. He has to go there within 1 second or 2 seconds. He has to press the button and he has to come out. Correct? When you have a long list of candidates, do you think the voter will go and start searching? Where is that candidate? Where is that candidate? Where is my candidate? You will not. And undecided voters, people who are still not decided, even in the booth, they are having confusion who to cast their vote for. Okay, all of them will just look at that and they will just click on number one. Whoever is in number one will have a vote. So these are some of the advantages. I mean, easy recognition by voters is one advantage that you enjoy being recognized as a national party or as a state party compared to other parties. Okay, this is one advantage. The other advantage is with respect to a concept called as star campaigners. What is the advantage that BJP has versus some other, let's say NTK, or we can say, okay, we'll take the equal fight, BJP versus DMK. Do you know who is the BJP state president of Tamil Nadu? Do you know who is the state president of BJP political party in Tamil Nadu? L. Murugan. Do you know which constituency he contested elections this time in Tamil Nadu? Where did he contest for elections? Do you know the name of that constituency? Yeah, he contested from Dharapuram. Correct. Dharapuram political constituency, he contested from there. Okay. Do you know who all came to Dharapuram to campaign for L. Murugan? And in spite of that, he lost. Do you know who all came to Dharapuram? Please don't type in this chat box. You can type to the other one. You can type to the other one. Okay, SK is another chat ID. You can type there because I will not be looking into this ID. Yeah, JP Nadda, Modi came to campaign for L. Murugan to Dharapuram. Prime Minister coming to Dharapuram, maybe first time in history it could have actually happened. Okay, so when Yogi Adityanath, they came, yeah, of course they came to Coimbatore. I don't know whether they went to Dharapuram also or not. Yeah, it's only 80 kilometers from Coimbatore. They could have gone. I don't doubt it. But what I'm trying to say is, if there is something called as election ceiling limit. That is, each candidate, maybe this is a MLA elections. So for MLA election, L. Murugan, being the candidate of BJP, fielded from Dharapuram political constituency. Do you know how much money he can spend during the time of elections? How much money can he spend for propagating himself, for making a propaganda about himself to the voters, to reaching out to voters? How much money do you think L. Murugan is allowed to spend for the latest elections? Do you have any idea? 20 lakhs is very less. 28 lakhs is the old amount. Now it has been revised. It has been revised in the recent days. How much was it revised to? It was revised to 30 lakhs. Okay. 70 lakhs. No. 70 lakhs is too much. That is for MP constituency. 70 lakhs. Earlier, the limit was there were 70 lakhs when it comes to MP constituencies and 28 lakhs when it comes to MLA constituencies. This is for large states. For smaller states, the limit is even lower. For smaller states, for MLA elections, it's around 20 lakhs. For larger states, for MP elections, it's around 65 lakhs, something like that. I'm talking generally for large states like Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, and all. This was the earlier existing ceiling limit. Now it is revised 10% hike. So 77 lakhs when it comes to MP elections, and this was 10%, 30 lakh or 31 lakhs. So I think 30 lakhs. You can probably check it. So let's say they will not ask you about what is the current ceiling limit. All these factual things will not be asked by UPSC. You just need to know that there is something called as a ceiling limit. So tell me, so what for UPSC purpose, what you have to know is not the 77 lakh, 30 lakhs, all these are useless. What you have to know is what is the intent? What is the intent behind having a ceiling limit? Tell me, why do we have such ceiling limits? Yes, to have a fair elections, or you can say that to have a level playing field between the candidates. Money should not become money circulation is not the answer. Okay. No. My question is very specific. Why do we have to have a cap on elections, on expenditure limit? It's basically to provide a level playing field for all candidates. Just because one candidate happens to be generationally, he might be from a rich family. Okay, but that does not mean that money should become the determinant in deciding whether he wins over the poor candidate or not. It should be based on his qualification. It should be based on his devotion for public service. It should be based on his ability to speak in the legislature. Those factors must decide whether a candidate must win elections, not his money. So, but at the same time, the reality of the modern day is that you have to spend money so as to reach out to the people. So you can reach out, but at the same time, you cannot influence the voters by using your money power. It is with this objective in mind, we have election expenses capped. And do you know where is this mentioned? the ceiling limit on elections. Is this mentioned in the constitution? 30 lakhs, 77 lakhs. Is it all mentioned in the constitution? That these are the ceiling limits and all these things? Or is it mentioned in Representation of People's Act 1950-51? As I told you, constitution, laws, these are all larger level, broader level documents, macro documents. Yes, very good. It's actually given in conduct of election rules. It is conduct of election rules, which talks about the nomination amount that you have to file for conducting elections, how many proposers must come and propose you for you to contest elections, what is the ceiling limit. All that is basically day-to-day procedures, and conduct of election rules mentions about these maximum and maximum ceiling limits. Okay, so let's say Modi comes to Dharapuram. Okay, so for that, how much money is spent on Modi's visit to campaign in Dharapuram for the purpose of L Murugan? How much money do you think is spent? You have to factor in the flight charges, a dedicated flight for the Prime Minister, that is Air India One, and in addition, all his SPG and all his motorcade and all those cars and everything, they would have also been transported. 10 lakhs, sir. Oh, no way, no way. It would all run to crores for Prime Minister to move with a dedicated flight. The flight charge itself, yeah, having an exclusive Air India One flight for the Prime Minister, sorry, that is for President, not for Prime Minister, having a separate flight for Prime Minister, for his SPGs, one other separate flight for his car, BMW or Land Rover, whichever he travels in, that will be in that flight maybe. Okay. So in addition to that, when a Prime Minister comes and visits a place, you require at least 25 white Innovas, which the district administration has to arrange. So for that, money will be given to the district collector. You have to go and rent out, and you cannot get an Innova per day for less than 5,000 rupees at least. So you have to spend into 25 times, correct? So, and you have so much of, and if the Prime Minister comes here, he has to take a helicopter. He cannot land in with the aeroplane. He cannot land in Dharapuram. Probably he has to land in Coimbatore airport. He has to take a helicopter. For that, he has to charter a helicopter, right? So all these kind of expenses. Let's say it comes to 50 lakhs. So 50 lakh rupees worth of advantage, extra advantage, is just like that. It is given to L Murugan just because L Murugan, being the president of BJP, I mean, the BJP political party has already communicated to the Election Commission of India what is called as a list of star campaigners. Okay. A list of star campaigners, and Narendra Modi's name is also one among them. Narendra Modi, Amit Shah, Yogi, Rajnath Singh, all they have been given as a list of star campaigners. So, what is the advantage of a star campaigner coming and campaigning for L Murugan? What is the significance of having a star campaigner? Anybody? Have you ever come across this idea? What is the advantage a candidate gets by having a star campaigner campaign for him? L Murugan's advantage in having Modi campaign for him. Tell me, what is the advantage that L Murugan has now got? No counting it as a personal expenditure. That is very, very correct answer. That is all. Basically, do we have any maximum winning people's trust? Yeah, those are definitely political advantages. I'm talking about this money-wise, monetary advantages that L Murugan has now got because of a star campaigner coming and campaigning for him. Is there a maximum ceiling limit on political parties' election expenditure? Do we have any such maximum expenditure ceiling limit on how much money can BJP spend for Tamil Nadu State Legislative Assembly elections per constituency? BJP should not spend more than this money. Do we have any such ceiling limits when it comes to a political party's election expenditures? Is there any ceiling limit? What is the ceiling limit which I have just brought to your attention? This 30 lakhs ceiling limit. What is the ceiling limit? Is it the ceiling limit of BJP political party? Is it the ceiling limit on the expenditure of the political party? This is for candidates, correct? So L Murugan's personal ceiling limit L. Murugan, personal money, he cannot spend more than 30 lakhs. But the political party BJP can spend endless amount of money throughout the constituency. Every single day they can hire big LED TVs and install it throughout Darapuram. They can install every day from morning to evening. They can run Modi's photos and Modi's videos, Amit Shah and Modi's friendship. All that can be telecasted there. No limit for a political party's expenditures. Okay, but in the TV, if they display L. Murugan's photograph or video, then the expenditure will have to be calculated for on the personal account of L. Murugan. What I'm trying to say is we don't have maximum ceiling limit for expenditures when it comes to political parties. They can just do any amount of expenditure. So the advantage of having Narendra Modi as a star campaigner is this entire 50 lakhs of Narendra Modi will not be added to the L. Murugan's election expenditure. It will be added to BJP's election expenditure. So, which means that L. Murugan can have these star campaigners. He will give a list of star campaigners, and there is a maximum list of star campaigners. You cannot just have an endless list of star campaigners. The list of star campaigners for a national party can be more than that of a list of star campaigns when it comes to state parties. Okay, so national parties and state parties have this advantage of star campaigners campaigning for candidates, which normal registered parties are not able to get benefited. So it can significantly affect the outcome of candidates fielded by national parties and state parties. So Modi coming and campaigning for L. Murugan in Darapuram is the reason why he was able to get some 60,000, 68,000 votes. Someone who last time, in last elections, who was not even able to cross 10,000 votes last time, this time he has got 60,000 votes. Why? Because Modi came. Modi came to Darapuram. And a lot of people came to see Modi's helicopter. They did not come to see Modi, they came to see Modi's helicopter. So because of all these kind of things, electoral outcomes have been significantly become favorable for L. Murugan, right? So this is the advantage of being recognized as a yeah, of course, alliance also worked out. Yeah. That's the biggest factor. ADMK votes have all gone to BJP. So yes, that's all. So this is this is the concept behind recognition of political parties as a national party, as a state party, and what are the benefits that a party gets being recognized as a national party and as a state party. Okay. So yes, so we'll go on to our usual routine in discussing elections. We will solve questions. Okay. So the next question I'll give you is I'll type it in the chat box. You can think for some time and you can start answering those questions. Okay. Next question. I'm sure many of you have read this topic called as decriminalization of politics. This is the question. Okay. So think an answer for this question and we'll get back. Yes, any answers? So have you thought about suitable points to be written as an answer for this question? Or have you at least thought about the direction in which the answer has to travel? So if so, tell me, we can have a discussion. So tell me, what is the scope of this question? What is the demand of this question? Okay, I'm just hoping that you guys are typing some one or two points. If not, at least say no, you can start the discussion. Or if so, I'll wait for 1 more minute and you can probably type in some points if you have any. So it's a 15-mark question. It's an answer that you have to write for 250 words. Okay. Intro with brief idea on issues and then move on to details and finally conclude. Yeah, that's correct. So there are no issues as such here. There are no issues. You have to bring out the importance of Supreme Court as an institution in cleansing politics in India, in cleaning the politics of criminal elements. How has Supreme Court played a role in decriminalizing politics? Politics is becoming so ridden full of criminals, right? Everybody who has a rape charge, a murder case, wants to become a MLA or MP so as to control the law. So how did Supreme Court? Because Parliament was failing in its work, because Representation of People's Act, it should have taken care of this issue. It should have taken care of the issue of preventing criminals from entering into politics. But the problem is that the law was not strong enough. Intentionally, the parliamentarians did not want to have a very strong law that deals with the criminalization of politics. So it is because of these issues, criminal entry into politics was not coming to an end. Completely frustrated, then Supreme Court had to interfere in various instances, because of which today we have a better electoral system. So many reforms, if you see, have been have been the result of Supreme Court judgments. And why did Supreme Court come with such judgments? It is because of the contribution of various organizations which have fought such cases in the Supreme Court. So in India, we have organizations such as Association for Democratic Reforms. We have an organization called as People's Union for Civil Liberties. These are all civil society organizations. These are NGOs. These are basically civil society organizations, not NGOs. These are CSOs, which are involved in the work of bringing reforms in political system in India, which are involved in bringing in cleaning up politics from the intrusion of criminal elements, right? I'm sure you would have heard about these organizations: Association for Democratic Reforms, People's Union for Civil Liberties. Have you heard of these organizations? When you read newspapers, in editorials, you would have come across these kind of organizations, right? ADR, PUCL, yes, newspapers, right? So, Supreme Court is often besieged with these civil society organizations filing cases against the government, filing cases against the Election Commission, because they have some grievances. So Supreme Court hears these litigations, these cases, and it comes up with some judgments. So these judgments were the reasons why we have a lot of reforms today. So that is my question. So how many of you have? Let me see. How many of you have got the question right? Only after judicial verdict in ADR was June of 2002 disclosure. That's a very first correct point. Yes, Archana's point is right. The very first starting point in cleaning up politics in India happened in 2002 because of the judgment of Supreme Court in Association for Democratic Reforms versus Union of India. That's a very correct answer. In 2002, okay, disclosure of criminal antecedents came into existence. What means is, until 2002, any criminal can contest elections, and I, as a voter, I will have no idea about his criminal background because he did not declare it. He need not reveal his criminal background. Okay, the law does not want him to reveal his criminal background, not at all. Conduct of election rules also does not talk anything about every candidate has to declare their criminal background. So I, as a voter, I am choosing my representative for the next 5 years without having the necessary information to arrive at an informed decision. How will I exercise my right to vote properly? That is the question. Okay, if I don't know, if I don't have information, then how can I decide about my voter? So that is any criminal can be fielded, and if I don't know about him, then I'll have to just go and just be satisfied by voting for him. I might end up having a wrong candidate. Correct. So it is to prevent this from happening. A case was filed in 2002. It was filed by an organization called as Association for Democratic Reforms. It is because of ADR versus Union of India case in 2002. The Supreme Court made it mandatory that political parties must reveal their candidates' criminal antecedents, criminal background. It must be given wide publicity. Okay. So this is the first starting point. See, let's be clear. The question is 115 marks. It's for 250 words. So you have to have 4 or 5 points. 4 or 5 knowledge point. You can expand it in paragraphs. Okay, and polity questions, if it is written in paragraphs, it will be even better. Polity questions, if it's written in paragraph, because polity and history, society, these are all kind of questions. Not even society, not all questions, but some questions. These are all some of the areas where you have to argue, where you have to convince the examiner. Okay, when you go about your task of convincing the examiner, you have to first state the idea. You have to build a strong argument, and then you arrive at the last point, which actually strengthens your stand. Okay, so all this requires at least or 3 sentences of the each point can find itself justified when the examiner goes. So don't get into the practice ever of writing polity answers in the form of points. That's a very bad idea to write polity questions as points. Okay, polity, history, these are all subjects where a lot of convincing has to be done. And so first, see, you cannot break the 3 sentences into 3 different points. What is the meaning of point format? Point format means that first point is different from the second point, but your first 3 sentences are all talking about this one particular issue in 2002, ADR versus Union of India. Because of that, people's voters' right to arrive at an informed decision was safeguarded. So everything is connected to this one core idea. That is what happened in 2002. So you should never write in point format. This entire paragraph, it should be written as a 3-sentence paragraph. Okay, this entire one first point on in ADR versus Union of India. Okay, so with this one case law, we'll be able to write for 4 or 5 lines. All right, maybe you will be able to write some 30 to 40 words, 30 words maybe. Okay, what else can you write? See, this is the kind of question that can actually be asked in mains, and this is a question which has till date not been asked. So you have to think on these kind of questions, because the questions which have already been asked will never be repeated ever by UPSC. Okay, so tell me. Okay, I accept this is one point that you can write, fill in some words. Okay, what else? But history, sir said to write in points with 1, 2, 3 format to ease the process of evaluator. See, this is my idea. That might be your history sir's idea. So you can follow whichever you feel like doing. Okay, but yeah, you 1, 2, 3 the points. I have never written in point format. That's my idea, and I have got the highest mark in India in history paper 2 in my optional papers, because writing it in point format is fine when the question, see, if the question in history is, it's something like this, uh, list out um, list out the different people's movements in princely states during freedom struggle. List out people's movements in princely states, popular movements in princely states, in the context of Indian national movement. Then you can write in points, because the question is asking you list out. The question is saying Lord Curzon was an enigma. Lord Curzon was an enigma among his peers in Indian, in the context of governing India. Okay, he was an enigma among other viceroys in governing India. Critically examine the statement. If you question, you cannot, what will you write in points? First point, Lord Curzon introduced police reforms. Second point, Lord Curzon partitioned Bengal. Is this what you will write for the question? No. You have to justify why you view Lord Curzon as a strange personality. Okay, that cannot be written in one point. First of all, understand the meaning of points. The first point, why do you, okay, why do you think Hindu paper does not write in points? You tell me this. Why is that Hindu editorial, every day you are reading editorial? Hindu paper could have actually published the editorial in points, right? For the ease of aspirants. Aspirants can just start, okay, first point, second point, third point, fourth point. It becomes easier. But why is then Hindu sticking to paragraph format? Why is that Hindu paper is actually publishing in paragraph format? Tell me. Is there some logic to it? Okay, of course, Hindu paper is not just for aspirants. That's right. Your question is, history sir said. Okay, I'm not bothered about what exactly history sir said, but your inference that you have actually got from what your history sir said is, history sir said to write in point format to ease the process of evaluators. That is, for those who are reading it, it needs to be made simpler. And but what made you think that? What made you think that only if it is written in a point format, it is easier for a person to read? Is that so? Hmm? So if something is written, yeah, reading points will make us sleepy when reading newspapers. That's true. In fact, when I read points, I cannot actually understand anything. When I read points, I really cannot understand why is this point even hanging there, because in history or in polity, whatever it may be, you cannot write one sentence, you cannot write one line and leave it and go to the next line. You can never write a polity answer like that. Okay, so you require at least three or four lines so as to give reasoning about why have you brought out this point. UPSC is not focused on your memory. It doesn't want to know whether you're able to write 20 points or 25 points. Waste of time. Because in UPSC real examination, you will struggle to find even 3 points for a question. And All India rank 1 is the guy who is able to find the fourth point or the fifth point. 5 point nobody in UPSC can actually do that. That is the nature of questions that is actually asked year after year. Yes, he said to write in point format instead of writing by putting star wherever necessary, not for all questions. Yes, that is how your sir would have actually told. Nobody would be asking you to stick to one format, stick to point format, paragraph format. But from my experience, I can say history questions need a lot of argumentation. It needs a lot of points and point of view and counterpoint of view. You can actually justify a history answer properly. So that can never be done with a point format. Okay, maybe as your history sir would have asked, wherever necessary. Say for example, when you yourself are bringing in your answer the evil consequences of zamindari system, that could be a part of your answer, but that is not the only answer. When you're writing a part of the answer, so you don't want to waste too much of space discussing about the evil consequences of zamindari, just put it about the consequence 1, 2, 3, just write it in short, move on to the other important analytical parts of the question. Okay, so that way, wherever necessary, yes, you may have to use point format. But you can keep this as a thumb rule. Most of the questions in polity or in history, you cannot actually adopt the point format. You have to stick on to the paragraph format. That is how the nature of questions are actually like. Anyway, we are in the process of discussing about role of judiciary. So there are some good points which have been brought in. One point is with respect to ADR versus Union of India. That was the first case, right? Next, what else? Court's judgment about giving clarification of very good point. This is the latest current affairs. This is recent ones. The recent one, I'm just coming to it in a chronological order. So the first step was taken by Supreme Court in 2002. Okay, and what else after that? After that, the next step, you can make a note of it also. I think you would be even probably knowing it also. In 2013, there was a case which was called as Lily Thomas versus Union of India. Have you ever heard of this case, Lily Thomas versus Union of India? This was a case which happened in 2013, and by now, okay, just for a discussion on answer writing, have you guys actually understood by now that real UPSC questions, it is hard to even come with 3 good points. அப்படிங்கிறது புரிஞ்சுட்டீங்களா இல்லையா? Because by now you should have gone through this year's mains question paper, last year's mains question paper. Have you come to this realization that it is very difficult to come up with the correct 3 points for a UPSC question? Okay, because when you write your test series from academies, from wherever you write, whenever you write your test series, no, they will come up with this big key of 20 points, 15 different points. They will all academies. I'm not blaming anyone, pointing out at any person. Everybody gives this like 15 points key, and some aspirants tend to be very obsessed with this answers keys. They would want to know what is this, that academy is giving 10 points, you are giving only 6 points to write. Okay, so it means that he is yet to understand about the nature of UPSC. The nature of UPSC is such that the question is framed in such a way that you would never have experienced a similar kind of question any time before in your test series. That is how UPSC will make sure questions are explored. Because for coaching centers, it is a very tough task setting a question paper. Because for polity alone, for one mains test series, we have to set some 3 question papers, each question paper having 20 questions. So altogether 50 to 60 questions the academies have to set for the aspirants. So very tough to explore a lot of areas. But UPSC's only work throughout the year, 1 year, they have to just choose one question for the topic called as anti-defection law, nothing more. So they can actually patiently think and do a lot of research and explore areas which have never been asked, and they can be asked as one question, right? So make sure, always keep this in mind. UPSC questions, you will never be able to come up with more than 3 points. So whoever comes up with the 4th and 5th point is the king. That is the logic, that is the competitive edge you actually have. So writing 4 points and 5 points is just this much space is over. In one page, you'll be able to complete this 4 or 5 points if you just write it in point format. Okay, so don't think that you can actually adopt a point writing style and you can fill in pages for 250 words. That is very, very tough. Maybe once you start doing it, you will be able to realize it. You should get that ability to stretch and stitch an answer around a central core idea. This is what you actually have to learn. Okay, so yes. Anyway, we are discussing about other cases. I'll just write it. So first is in 2002, ADR versus Union of India. Okay. In this case, Supreme Court says, Supreme Court brings in a reform so as to the candidates. Why? So this is one wonderful reform which was actually brought in. And do you know how the Parliament responded to the Supreme Court's order? Do you know how the Parliament responded? Parliament immediately it struck back. It brought in an amendment to RPA 1951. Okay, very bad move by Parliament. Parliament responded by bringing an amendment to RPA 1951. It said that no other information apart from wealth, immovable property details, and personal details have to be revealed, which actually nullifies the verdict of Supreme Court in ADR versus Union of India. So this amendment was once again challenged in PUCL versus Union of India. Another organization called People's Union for Civil Liberties. It went to the Supreme Court challenging the validity of amendments that the Parliament brought into Representation of Peoples Act 1951. I think Section 33 was actually amended in this particular instance. So PUCL versus Union of India was fought so as to question the validity of our amendments to RPA 1951. In this judgment, Supreme Court struck down these amendments as null and void. So you can say that Supreme Court not only brought in reform, it also safeguarded the reform which it had brought in from the uh, from the parliament itself. Parliament tried to undo the reform that was actually brought in by Supreme Court by making amendments to RPA so that candidates need not declare their criminal antecedents. This was once again struck down in PUC, which is Union of India. I think the very following year, I don't know the year exactly. So Supreme Court was able to protect a citizen's right to be informed properly about the choice of his candidates. That's one great reform which was brought by judiciary, by Supreme Court. We will move forward. In 2013, what happened? In 2013, there is a case called as Lily Thomas versus Union of India. Okay. So, what is this case about? Any idea? Do you know what is this case law all about? Lily Thomas versus Union of India. It's a very, very famous case, a very landmark case in decriminalizing of politics in India. Have you ever come across? Have you guys come across this case law ever? What is that about? No. Okay, I'll tell you. You see, you have two sections in representation of people, like Section 8A, which was later brought in by an amendment. Then you also have something called as Section 8.4, Section 8, subsection 4. Did I discuss with you about what is Section 8 in the last class? Yeah, that's very correct. Lalu Prasad Yadav got disqualified because of this. That's very correct. So, do you know what is Section 8? Section 8 of Representation of People's Act, I think I have broadly given you an idea last class. This is about general disqualification for crimes where the imprisonment period is greater than 2 years imprisonment period. Okay, for any crime whichever has an imprisonment period of more than 2 years, or there are certain other crimes which are given. The crime of practicing untouchability, the crime of involving in dowry, so all those crimes, if you actually do, there is a list of crimes which is given in Section 8 of RPA People's 1951. It also covers crimes for which the period of imprisonment is more than 2 years. So if Sasikala is actually convicted under Prevention of Corruption Act, she is put behind bars for a period of 4 years imprisonment in jail. If that is the case, she is now liable to be disqualified under Section 8 of RPA 1951. So basically, because her period of imprisonment is more than 2 years. So let's say Sasikala, she is imprisoned for 4 years. What Section 8 says is, after the period of imprisonment, please listen carefully, this is the point of difference. This is after the period of imprisonment for a further period of 6 years. For this 6 more years, you can be disqualified. This is what Section 8 says. What does Section 8A say? Section 8A is very specific. I told you last class, it is very specific about corrupt electoral practices. And I told you what are those corrupt electoral practices. It is given under Section 126 maybe of RPA 1951, 126 or 125. Just check any of those two sections. You will come across a list of corrupt practices. What all are the corrupt practices that will be given there. So here, how is the period of disqualification calculated? Please listen here carefully. Here, the period of disqualification is, let's say the court holds you guilty and it says 2 years imprisonment because you have been bribing the voters to vote in your favor. You have whipped up communal passions in the minds of people to vote for you. So you are guilty of corrupt electoral practice. 2 years of imprisonment. In this case, Section 8A says, even here you are liable to be disqualified for a maximum period of up to 6 years, but the time is calculated right from here. From here it is calculated 6 years. This is the difference between Section 8 and Section 8A. So since the date of the judgment, from then up to a maximum period of 6 years, you are liable to be disqualified under Section 8A. This is for corrupt electoral practices. Okay. This is all about the provisions in RPA 1951 about disqualification. Okay. So there are two more sections that you should be aware of. One is section 11 of RPA, section 11 of RPA 1951. What is this? This gives the power in the hands of president. Sorry, election commission. Election commission is given powers so as to remove the period of disqualification. This is a weakness. This is another weakness of RPA 1951. Even though on one hand, RPA 1951, it criminalizes corrupt electoral practices, it disqualifies members who are convicted of corrupt electoral practices from becoming MPs or MLAs. At the same time, section 11 is a loophole in this act. It gives powers in the hands of EC. So election commission has been given the powers to remove the period of disqualification under section 8A. That is, after spending 2 years in prison, once the person comes out, immediately the election commission can just remove the period of disqualification. He can immediately conduct elections. This actually happened. This happened in the case of Sikkim chief minister. He's a BJP guy. He was actually held guilty of corrupt electoral practice. Then he was convicted. And once his conviction is over, immediately his period of disqualification was removed by ECI. So then our entire opposition parties, legal critics, Hindu newspaper articles, all of them, they started criticizing this act of EC, election commission, as this can start as wrong precedent that election commission can be arm twisted to remove the period of disqualification. Okay, so this was expected that this provision will not be normally used, but for a person like convict for who was convicted by the court for corrupt practice, he is given exemption. Okay, so these kind of issues are still there with respect to RPA 1951. So if at all you have a question in the examination which talks about the continuing problem of criminalization of politics, so this is one point which you can actually have in your mind, which you can bring in your answers. Okay, they will not ask you explain the disqualification provisions of RPA 1951. They'll ask you a question where the ideas that you indirectly pick up here and there from the classes, you will pick up some points, from the newspapers you will pick up some points, from your own studies you will pick up some points. All those have to be there at some point, some place in your memory, and it has to be brought in as an answer. Okay, so anyway, okay, you have these all sections regarding disqualifications. There was an earlier section, which is section 8(4) of RPA 1951. I think it is still there in the act, but this provision was declared as unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. What is this provision? Section 8, subsection 4 of RPA 1951. It says that if you are a sitting MLA or a MP, let's say you are convicted for murder, you are given 10 years life imprisonment. Okay, if that is the case, what will happen? You have to now go to the jail. You are disqualified from holding your post as a MP or a MLA. That is, if you're disqualified, and you immediately will lose your membership of the house. You will have to spend your time in jail, and even after coming out, furthermore 6 more years of time, 6 more years, you will be disqualified from contesting elections. That is the idea, right? What section 8(4) provided was a kind of an exemption. What was the exemption? The exemption is that, let's say High Court gives this verdict. Okay, High Court has given the verdict of 10 years of life imprisonment. I am a sitting MP or MLA. What I do is, within a time period given in the section 8(4), let's say 1 month or 60 days, I think 60 days was the time period given. Within the time period, if I run to the higher court, if I file an appeal petition, I file in the Supreme Court. Okay, if I file it, it means that section 8 disqualification will not apply to me until Supreme Court disposes away this case. Do you think in the Indian context it is possible at all? Do you think it will be easily possible in the Indian context? In the first court itself, in the very first court, probably the case would have taken 10 years. In the next case, once you go to the in the next court, once you go to the appeal stage, it might take another 10 or 15 years for the appeal petition to be dispensed away. So it is almost leading to a complete immunity for sitting MPs and MLAs, that nothing is going to happen to them. So this section 8(4), which provides exemption, this particular exemption for sitting MPs and MLAs, that they will not be immediately disqualified if they go and file an appeal in the higher court. So this provision was declared as unconstitutional in this particular case law, which is called as Lilly Thomas versus Union of India. So Supreme Court said that this is against the right of equality of commoners. You cannot treat sitting MPs and MLAs versus a common citizen. Okay. So this violates the right of equality of a common citizen to be treated equally under a law. This is a discriminatory provision, and this was actually struck down as unconstitutional in Lilly Thomas versus Union of India, because of which Lalu Prasad Yadav, who was a sitting MP of Lok Sabha at that point of time, he had to lose his seat and he had to be disqualified. Okay. So this is one other reform, you can say, one other initiative judgment by the Supreme Court, which has actually gone a long way in decriminalizing of politics in India. All right. Okay. So do we have anything else to discuss in this context? Yes, we do have. What other points can you bring in your answers? Yes, any other point? Are you aware of any significant contribution of Supreme Court with relationship with Nota? Are you aware of any Supreme Court's contribution to the development of Nota as a concept? To the Have you ever come across anything in whatever you have studied earlier? Yes. Okay, 2013 judgment. Yeah, that's a very correct answer. In 2013, there was a case filed in Supreme Court. Okay, so what was the outcome of that case? I'll just explain to you. Yeah, I'll explain to you. So today when you go to the polling booth, what is the procedure to give a nota vote today? If you were to go to a polling booth today, oh sorry, I'm not sharing my screen. That's okay. What you have to know is in 2013 there is a case which is called as PUCL versus Union of India, People's Union for Civil Liberties versus Union of India. In that case, Supreme Court gave a judgment. Okay, actually, what is that case all about? Today, can I know if any of you had voted for Nota in the latest elections? Did you guys vote for Nota? How many of you had voted for Nota this time? Do we have any friends here who have given their vote for Nota? No, nobody. Okay, all right. So today, okay, do you know how you can vote for Nota? You know that the last candidate in the ballot box is Nota. You have to just go and press your vote today in favor of Nota. But that was not the case until 2013. Yes, until 2013. In 2012, let's say you want to reject all the candidates. You don't like any of the options that is given to you. So how could you have gone and exercised your option of negative vote? Nota is called as a negative vote. It is called as, it's actually there in conduct of election rules. Rule number 49O. Rule number 49O talks about negative vote, none of the above options. Okay. So in 2012, how could you have gone and exercised your Nota? You have to go to the presiding officer in that polling booth. Okay. The government officer, there will be 4 officers. One is the presiding officer, then you will have polling officer 1, second polling officer, third polling officer. Yeah, we have to write and give. That's very correct. Until until this case judgment, you have to go to the polling booth, get a form from the presiding officer. You have to tell them, I want form number 2049O. He will give you a form. Then you have to write your name, everything, and you have to say that I I don't vote for any of the other option or any of the candidate. You have to close it and give it to the presiding officer. But don't you think it actually violates the privacy of a candidate? Does it not? Is it not a clear violation of his privacy? Whereas all the other uh, voters, they have voted for a particular candidate and their privacy is maintained. He's also exercised his choice, but his privacy is just gone away because the polling agents of all the political parties will be sitting in that polling booth. They will be observing him. Okay, so you did not actually vote for me. Okay, once I come to power, let's see whether you are going to get any benefit from the government or not. Right? So this is the reason why Supreme Court heard this matter, and in 2013, in PUCL, which is Union of India, Supreme Court it ordered the Election Commission to make changes to conduct of election rules and to bring in Nota as one of the candidates. So that was how today you have your complete privacy in going and exercising your choice in favor of Nota. But don't you think? Do you think Supreme Court's interpretation should have been necessary for all these matters? Don't you think Election Commission itself should have done all these things? Don't you think amendments must have been brought in RPA 1951 and by themselves these things should have happened? But it will not happen. That is the nature of power. People who capture power will try to maintain it at all costs. They will ensure that they remain in power at all costs. It's only when you're outside the government you want to have transparency and all these things. Once you get into the government, you will understand the power and advantage that comes with opaqueness. Okay, so that is why once you get into the government, the same revolutionaries, the same protesters, they would actually want to hide things. They would want status quo. They would not want the citizens to be participating. They would not want others to question them, because the nature of running a government in India is so tough. That is the reason. With so much of competing, conflicting interests, there will always be methods which may not be strictly legal. So there might be, and okay, that is different. But anyway, people who are at the positions, let's say parliamentarians, or let's say the Chief Election Commissioner of Election Commission, who can actually have brought in changes either to RPA 1950, 1951, or to conduct of election rules, they have not brought it out. They have not brought it out for the larger interest of the people. That is why it had to go until up to the Supreme Court, and it has to be litigated in Supreme Court, and Supreme Court's intervention was necessary for just a simple matter like making Nota as a one more button in elections, right? So this is another commendable role of Supreme Court when it comes to decriminalization of politics. Okay, is there any other instance? You can even bring in the latest instance where Supreme Court. Do you know what was the latest measure taken by Supreme Court to bring in transparency or to prevent criminalization of politics? I think one of you had brought in that answer. It is Supreme Court had asked political parties to declare it to public. That is, why did I field a candidate who has 6 rape charges and 4 murder charges against him? Okay, so the first reform happened in 2002 when Supreme Court ordered political parties that you have to declare your candidates' criminal backgrounds. Now, the latest set of initiatives was when Supreme Court directs the political parties to give an explanation saying, why am I fielding this candidate even after knowing that he has 4 rape charges and 6 murder charges when already there were better candidates available? Okay, so political parties now have to give an explanation that no, all these charges are false charges. He is such an amazing parliamentarian. The kind of questions that he asks is spectacular. It's very incisive. His role in parliamentary committees are very wonderful. Okay, in reality, if at all the candidate would have done such a kind of role, only then it could have been written, right? So that is why now political parties are being made accountable, at least morally to the public, at least, if not legally. Political parties are made morally accountable to the public for their choice of candidates. Okay, why is that? As if you don't have any better candidate, what is the compulsion that you have to always field a candidate with a criminal background, explain it before the public. So now political parties, at least they will think twice before fielding a candidate with a criminal background, because they know that they have to give an explanation why they are fielding such a kind of a candidate. So this can be one more reform. This is how slowly reforms come in our political setup. So 2002 was one initiative, 2020 we have another initiative. 18 years for just such small steps in decriminalizing politics. And why is it taking 18 years? Because it is not coming from the representatives of the people. If it would have been made as a part of the law, RPA 1950 or 51, it could have been by means of amendments. Every year an amendment can be made to make system better and better, but it is not coming from them. It is actually coming from judiciary, which is already overburdened and overworked, right? So that is the reasons why the pace of progress and the pace of reform that is happening in the Indian society is taking a lot of time. But that is the democratic setup which we have accepted to. So we have no other options. We have decided that we don't want to go the Chinese way or the authoritarian way. We go by the democratic principles, which is definitely time consuming, but which is more enduring and more satisfying. Correct? All right. So we can go to the next topic. I'll give you the next question. Okay, in this context, you can also make note of one more recommendation. Okay, the recommendation is what Supreme Court has actually made so as to prevent entry of criminals into politics. Decriminalization of politics is once the criminals come into politics, once they come into politics, after that, what can be done to get politics rid of these criminals? The Supreme Court has given a recommendation to Law Commission of India. What is that? Supreme Court has said that if there are candidates who have serious charges against them, rape charges, murder charges, these are all serious charges. These cannot be filed as a frivolous charge, correct? Do you think a murder charge can be filed? Can a frivolous murder charge be filed? I have a dispute with my neighbor. He can definitely go and file a false case against me that I have used obscene language in the public against him. Yes or no? Correct? It is one of a crime in IPC. IPC, it's a list of various crimes. So under IPC, using obscene language in the public is actually one of a crime. Okay, don't you think my neighbor can go and file a fake complaint against me with the police with saying that I was using obscene language in the public against her? அப்படின்னு சொல்லி பண்ண முடியுமா பண்ண முடியாது? Yes or no? Yes. Do you think my neighbor can go and tell to the police, I have committed a murder, please file a case against him? Is it so easy? Is it easy to do that? It's not easy, because the police will ask who has been murdered, where is the body. It is not as easy as filing a fake complaint in other kind of crimes. So that is why Supreme Court has given advice to the Law Commission when it comes to heinous offenses like rape or murder. இந்த மாதிரி offenses எல்லாம் வரும்போது make sure anybody against whom, even if a charge is filed, even if a complaint is filed against a person on rape or murder, he should not be allowed to contest elections only until he is proved as innocent. Right now it's a reverse. Until he is proved guilty, he is not prevented from contesting in elections. But Supreme Court's advice was, in case of serious offenses like rape or murder, where it is not easy to file a fake case, you have to have a victim, you have to have a murdered body lying around, only then you can file all these kind of cases. So if at all such a case is filed, and police is also very careful in dealing with prima facie evidences before filing a murder case. They will not just like that file. They will exercise due caution. You cannot bribe a policeman to file a murder case against someone. Maybe you can bribe a policeman to file all those petty kind of cases against someone. But a murder and all, it's not so easy to be filed. The inspector who files that case will be taken to task by the superintendent of police. SP will come heavily on him. What logic do you have to even file a murder case? So it's not easy. So if it is filed, it means that the matter is pretty serious. It means that there is a genuine suspicion that the person could be involved in that commitment of that crime, right? So if at all such serious crimes are filed against a person, he should be prevented from contesting in elections itself. Okay, so that is the opinion that was advice given by Supreme Court to Law Commission, but Law Commission has not recommended it to the. I mean, no such changes have been brought in because there are always a potential of misuse when it comes to such kind of provisions. So yeah, it may be impractical to be actually implemented, but that is the point that you have to write in your exam. If you have a question on what steps can be taken for future decriminalization of politics in the Marlang Ketangna, your answer should be on those lines. Like Law Commission has already recommended, the Supreme Court has recommended to Law Commission to have a bar on candidature of of those who have who have been charged with serious offenses such as rape and murder. அப்படின்னு ஒன்று எழுதிட்டு வந்துடலாம், right? So accused should not contest. Not only if he is convicted is this right. That is the recommendation given. Yes, accused should not contest. If it is he is an accused of a rape or a murder, such kind of heinous offenses. Okay, because as I told you, it is not such a simple thing to file a rape or murder case. If it is actually filed, it means that there should have been some kind of a prima facie evidence. இல்லாம வந்து blindly no policeman will file a rape case or a murder case. So if it is filed, an accused should be prevented from contesting elections, because contesting election is not your fundamental right. It is a right given by law. So the law can just be amended at any point of time to take away that right away from you. It's not your fundamental right, like your right of freedom or right of equality or right against untouchability. Those are some things which are inherent just because you're born as a human being. There are certain rights which are higher level of rights. But right to contest election, you can actually live happily without even contesting elections. It's not that you have to contest elections so as to even feel like a citizen fundamentally. That is not the idea. That is why right to vote is not kept as a fundamental right. It is after all a legal right, nothing more than that. Correct? So if it is a legal right, it can be taken away by law at any point of time. But till date, it has not been done. Then it will become very tough for so much of criminals to contest elections. So as I told you, the persons who have to be reformed are the ones who are at the positions of deciding whether they have to be reformed or not. Do you get what I'm saying? The persons who have to be reformed are the ones who are sitting in the places to decide whether they have to be reformed or not. Correct? The lawmakers who are sitting in parliament, they are the ones who have to decide whether they should be prevented from contesting elections. But such a change, is it going to come? It's so that's not going to actually happen. So maybe it can happen when people realize who are the good candidates, people vote them to power, so they go there. Then definitely all these changes will be made, because the ones who are sitting there, they are clean guys, they are clean candidates there. So they have nothing to lose by bringing in all these tight provisions in RP 1951. So until that happens, we have to keep on moving around with the existing setup, right? So, okay, so we'll just take a small break and we'll continue after this. 5 minutes break, okay? 5 minutes and we'll continue. Okay, so I'll give you the next question. This is also another interesting question. If you try to figure out an answer for this question, so see if you can think about an answer for this question. Okay, Vamsi has asked a question which I have not seen earlier. Vamsi's question is, sir, but in this case, I mean, he is referring to Supreme Court's recommendation that accused should not be allowed to contest elections. So his question is, sir, but in this case, the burden of proof would be on the candidate, right? Burden of proof of what? So am I saying that he is going to be punished because he is going to be an accused? No, he is not going to be punished. He is just declared ineligible to contest in elections. That's why, because it's not a violation of his fundamental right or anything. He is just prevented from contesting elections until there is more clarity. So that does not mean that he is punished and the burden of proof is put on him. No. If I said that he will be put behind bars even before a trial just because he is accused, then your statement is right. There it's like as if he is unnecessarily incriminated for an offense which he would not even have done. So this is like shifting the burden on the person. But we are not dealing with punishments here. He is not even disqualified for 6 more years or anything until the trial concludes, until firmly it is established that he is without any stain on him. So until then, he is prevented from contesting in elections. So I don't think this is in any way related to shifting the burden on the accused or anything. Okay. So yes, think about this question. Take 1 or 2 minutes and tell me what all can be brought in as a point in this particular question. Yes. So do we have any answers? We have one answer from Sri Lakshmi. Okay. Okay. Many of your answers are with respect to electoral bonds. Is there anything else apart from electoral bonds that you can bring in as the answer? See, as I keep on emphasizing it again and again, it is a 15 marker, 150 word answer. Okay. See, when it comes to recent measures. Okay, just remove the word recent. Certain measures அப்படின்னு கூட போட்டுக்கோங்க. You can probably remove the word recent. Recent in the context of so maybe recent, you don't have to think only within the last 1 year of a current affairs. Questions will be asked in UPSC with respect to maybe 10 years or 20 years or 30 years. Just like the previous question, examine the role of judiciary. So the role starts from 2002. It continues till date. Similarly, various amendments, measures that have been taken to change the provisions of a lot of statutes for some period of time. So you can maybe eliminate the word recent, certain measures. That could be a better way. Okay, now think about an answer and tell me. Can you think of anything else apart from electoral bonds, apart from this matter? Can you think of something else, some other route, anything else that has impacted the transparency in elections? So what I'll do is I'll share one document with you, which you can also go through. Okay. This is a very important, this is a very nice piece about elections. So I'll just share this with you. So go through this document. You will learn how to make notes, exclusive notes for these kind of issues, because these are the kind of study materials which you will not be given by academies, and which it's not possible for academies to give you a list of these kind of materials. So you have to browse and come across these kind of materials here and there. You have to be shrewd and sharp enough in making your own notes. Let's say that this is the kind of a question that is asked. Any question on electoral bonds is related to the broader topic of transparency in elections. Okay. So what all other issues can be there about transparency in elections? You come across a lot of such articles in newspapers. So immediately what you should be doing, you should browse about it in good websites. And ORF Online is a very good website on building opinions on a lot of matters related to polity and international relations. Okay. So how would you proceed further? Okay, let's say recent measures and various amendments to the statutes related to campaign finance have seriously undermined the transparency associated with election process. Okay, very general question. You have to think of what all has been done in the recent past. Okay, so it's a critically examined. So maybe the amendment. See, the question is, it has seriously undermined the transparency, whether it is true or not. Has it really undermined the transparency, or has it increased the transparency, or is it a mix of both? This is the kind of an analysis that you have to be making when it comes to this particular topic. Okay, so we will look into it. What are the different changes that have been brought in? First is, yeah, we can start with electoral bonds, no doubt about that. But what you write about electoral bonds is the issue. You should not write about electoral bonds is available in various denominations. It is used by corporates to fund parties. There is no point in writing about all those things, but there are larger issues at stake. You should be nailing the issue clearly when you write an answer. Let's say I write something like this. The same question. So many of you have brought in the idea related to electoral bonds. So electoral bonds was introduced in the budget finance bill 2017. Finance bill 2017. It made amendments, and because of which electoral bonds were introduced. The money bill brought in the concept called as electoral bonds. So you know about the concept of electoral bonds. You know how who can buy, who can contribute, All that, I'm not going to discuss anything about it. Tell me, how is this related to this question? The question is about certain changes, certain new initiatives, new measures have adversely impacted transparency. So now tell me, how would you make use of your knowledge that you have about the issue? Okay, I'm not sharing my screen. Okay. So someone tell me, how is the knowledge that you have about electoral bonds, how is that going to be used to address the point on there is a lack of transparency? How would you write a statement? Just write one sentence or two sentences linking this issue. That is the skill that you actually need. Whatever points you may have, how do you make use of that to address the demand of the question? The demand of the question is, how has this changes affected transparency in elections? So how are you going to relate the introduction of electoral bonds as a retrograde step in transparency related to elections? How will you link them together? Give me in one sentence. Yes, exactly. Sri Lakshmi's answer is perfect. That's a correct answer. I'll just read it out. Anybody else? Type in your sentence and I can maybe check it if you're writing correct manner or not. Because criticizing electoral bonds is not the object of the question. Saying that it can allow black money, it can do this, it can do that. All that is not the point here. The point is, how is it affecting the transparency related to elections? So what is the transparency here? Hmm? What is the transparency here in the election process that is actually getting affected because of electoral bonds? What transparency are we actually talking about here? Source of money. Well, that is not about transparency in elections, right? Source of money. But if okay, even going by your statement, source of money, do you think because of introduction of electoral bonds, now source of money is going to be difficult? Uh, so do you think because of electoral bonds, government will not be aware of the source of money? Is that what you're saying? Will that, if that is your inference, what about others? Is that inference correct? He's saying source of money is now going to be questionable. Do you think electoral bonds, because it is now brought out, the source of money is now not going to be identified at all? Then what is the purpose of electoral bonds? Why was electoral bonds introduced in the first place? What was the speech given by Arun Jaitley when he introduced electoral bonds? What did he say? He said that electoral bonds are introduced so as to get rid of this problem of black money. Once electoral bonds is introduced, the corporate donations will be streamlined. It will be channeled through electoral bonds, and now the source of money can be properly tracked. It is exactly the opposite of what you say. Okay, so it is to act precisely track the source of money for which electoral bonds has been introduced first. So that is not the transparency that is actually getting affected here. Electoral bonds sold by SBI, which may disclose details of the donors to the ruling party. Yes, yes. So what is the consequence here? That is my question here. What is the end consequence, end result of this? Because of that, what is going to happen? Because of government coming to know about the source of donations to political parties, what is going to happen? That is the idea that has to be brought in here. Enemy countries involvement? No, 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 no. How do you think enemy countries will be involved in purchase of electoral bonds? Do you think foreign countries can? Do you think China can buy electoral bonds? No, no, no. That is not right to privacy. Well, uh, what privacy here? Anyway, no, it is not at all. It is not about right to privacy or anything. Something else. I'm saying electoral bonds is an advantage to the ruling party and not to the opposition party. Would you accept to that or not? Okay, I'll discuss about electoral bonds. All right. You see, what are electoral bonds? Electoral bonds are like check. Okay, it's like a check. It's a bearer instrument, just like a demand draft, something like that. Okay, bearer instrument. So you have electoral bonds. Like it's like a check. I write a check for 1 lakh rupees. Correct. 1 lakh in the name of a BJP party. Yes, that's correct. Sri Lakshmi's idea is once again correct. I'm just coming to you your idea. So I give it. I write a check of 1 lakh to BJP. I give this check to BJP. BJP will take it to their own bank. They may have bank with Bandhan Bank maybe. Okay. So BJP takes this check. It encashes the check. 1 lakh rupees is now deposited into the account of BJP bank account. Correct. This is how a check functions. Same is the case with electoral bonds. But just that electoral bonds, it is already available in terms of denominations. You cannot write the amount. Electoral bonds is available in the denominations of 10,000 rupees, 1 lakh, 10 lakh, 1 crore, up to 10 crore. Okay. So what you have to do is, let's say I am Reliance. I go to SBI. SBI is the only bank which will issue these electoral bonds. I go to State Bank of India. I pay 10 crore rupees. I can get this one check. Okay, a check for the value of 10 crore. Now, Reliance will go to BJP office. Reliance will give this electoral bonds to BJP. Okay, BJP will go to its own bank, and this is a bearer instrument. SBI is promising that SBI has taken 10 crore rupees from our Reliance. SBI has given an electoral bond for 10 crore. That piece of paper has a value of 10 crore. BJP goes to its bank, Bandhan Bank. It gives this electoral bond to Bandhan Bank manager. Immediately, Bandhan Bank deposits 10 crore in the account of BJP political party. This is how electoral bonds work. So this is introduced so as to ensure funding to political parties happen honestly. Okay. Now Reliance has no other means of funding. Now Reliance is more happy that there is such a simple way. I can just go to SBI and buy a bond and I can donate it. So it's so easy for me now. It doesn't have to write checks, or it doesn't have to contribute in amounts less than 20,000. All those problems are now not there. It becomes easier. If the corporates want, they can make use of this electoral bond route. Okay. So what is the claim of the opposition party? Congress, Indian National Congress, it is against this electoral bonds. Why? It says that, let's say there is Rajiv Bajaj. Okay. So Bajaj and his family, they are openly against BJP at many occasions. So Rajiv Bajaj wants to contribute 5 crore to Indian National Congress. So what he does, he goes to SBI, he buys denomination up to 5 crore, he buys and he contributes. Okay. So this detail, so whenever a corporate, if he wants to buy an electoral bond, he has to comply with KYC norms. That is, when I go to a bank and SBI and when I purchase electoral bond, I have to give my PAN card, my Aadhaar card, ID card, and all these details. That is KYC norms. So SBI clearly knows who is the person who is buying these electoral bonds. Correct? So if and Bandhan Bank also has the electoral bonds with them. The bond which is purchased from SBI now goes to Bandhan Bank. Bandhan Bank maintains this record of this electoral bond. So Bandhan Bank now claims this electoral bond from SBI. Bandhan Bank says, okay, give me this 5 crore now. Then because that piece of paper has 5 crore value, SBI has to transfer it. Correct? So now this money from Bandhan Bank is transferred to the bank account of Indian National Congress. Okay, this is the process that happens. Indian National Congress, the party goes to, okay, not Bandhan Bank, maybe Punjab National Bank. INC's account is in Punjab National Bank. They go to PNB, they give this 5 crore denomination. Immediately, money is transferred from Punjab National Bank to uh, to the INC office. So Punjab National Bank has this data that money is being transferred to INC. It also knows which electoral bond is used for that purpose. And SBI has the data about this electoral bond. So SBI knows it is Rajiv Bajaj who is purchasing this electoral bond. So Rajiv Bajaj and INC, Rajiv Bajaj has made contribution to INC. This is something which can be found out by the government by accessing all these databases, right? Whereas, do you think INC can access this database? Indian National Congress, do you think it can access any of these data? Hmm? Are these data that are available in public domain? Are they? Can you access it by RTI or anything? Nothing. None of these are declared. So it tilts the balance completely in favor of government. Government alone can monitor who is making what contribution to what party. But don't you think if government is monitoring this, don't you think Rajiv Bajaj will be scared? If I make contributions to Congress, definitely BJP will know that I am the one who's making contributions. So because of that, businessmen will not want to contribute to the opposition party. They would only want to contribute to the ruling party, strengthening the ruling party further and further. That is why I have shared you this document. Go through the document, you will have some statistics showing how much BJP has gained after the introduction of electoral bonds. Do you know, in the last year, for the last 2 years, since the introduction of electoral bonds, if you see the amount which has been collected via electoral bonds, 90% of the money that has gone for political parties through electoral bonds, it has only gone to BJP. 90% to one political party, remaining 10% to all other political parties. This is completely skewing the balance in favor of the ruling party. It is not healthy for democracy. Last elections in Madhya Pradesh, Rahul Gandhi, he even admitted it openly that we don't even have money for running our own party expenses. That is the state of Congress today, because people are now scared of contributing to Congress, that by contributing they can earn the displeasure of the ruling dispensation. So electoral bonds, in what way has it? So this is all about electoral bonds and the problems. But my question is something different. Electoral bonds has adversely affected the transparency associated with electoral politics in India. Okay, that is the question. So you cannot write about all these issues and points. My point has to be very precise. In what way is it affecting the transparency of electoral politics? The transparency is, do you think a common man, okay, government, answer two questions. Do you think government can have data about who is contributing to what political party? Yes, it can. But just because these contributions need not be made open, it need not be declared. BJP, let's say it has received 500 crores from electoral bonds. Who all have given these 500 crores to BJP? Who are the people? All those data need not be filed before the Election Commission of India. It need not be submitted to Election Commission of India. So if it is not submitted to Election Commission of India, it will not be published by Election Commission of India. So the common man will have no idea about which corporate has donated how much to this particular government. So, so if that is the case, um, do you think the government, when it comes back to power, will it actually work in favor of this common man, or will it work in favor of Ambani or Adani, who has contributed to this government? It will only work for these people. So if a common man at least knows that, okay, BJP has been getting a lot of corporate donations through electoral bonds. So if BJP government is once again formed, it will work only for the interest of corporates. So I should not vote for BJP. But just because electoral bonds, the scheme itself says that the contributions received via electoral bonds need not be submitted or filed in the annual returns of the political party, that every year political parties have to submit their annual income and expenditures to the ECI. But electoral bond scheme, when you read that, it is very clear. Political parties need not file the contributions they receive through electoral bonds. It's a very intentional step. These are two steps. One is you introduce electoral bonds, the information which only government can access. So you scare the entire business corporates from contributing to Congress one way. Next is you make it so opaque that nobody will know that how much money the party has received from except the government itself, nobody else can know how much money has been received through electoral bonds. So it is definitely affecting the transparency of what do you say, of the parties contesting elections. So the common man is completely at dark about why he should be even voting and not why he should not be voting for a party. Okay, so this is the problem with transparency. What other amendments, what other changes have we come across recently? What other changes have we come across recently? If this is anything else, can you? Okay, I'll give you a clue. There is something about Companies Act. Have you come across any news related to Companies Act, which affects transparency in elections? Have you come across any news recently with respect to amendments to Companies Act? I'm sure you would have come across some news or the other. What are they? Are you typing, or should I start giving my answer for that? Okay. Okay, fine. I'll tell you what it is. Companies Act. So tell me, what is the purpose of this act? Companies Act. Why do we have an act called as a Companies Act? Just give me a broad answer. To regulate the functioning of companies. Companies must act responsibly. Companies must not companies must comply with corporate governance standards. They should not cheat the public, right? So it is to hold the yeah to decide how decisions must be made in the company. It should be based on the majority of the board members, majority of the board, and who are the shareholders, who are the minority shareholders, what are the powers of minority shareholders? Because common people like me, you, we're all minority shareholders. Let's say Reliance, okay, 51% ownership is with Ambani, 49% is uh, it is with the public, right? Share market. So definitely Ambani will always have the majority voice in the board. Ambani has the decision making powers because of his ownership of 51%, majority ownership. So let me ask you a question. I have invested my money in buying Reliance stock. I have invested 10 lakh rupees of my money in buying Reliance stock with the expectation. I have made my business decision. This is a business decision I made. I thought that Reliance will do well. Its geo towers, its network is all good, and maybe it can earn money. I can probably earn dividend per share. Each share might give 10 rupees per year as a dividend. I make all the calculations. I find maybe my return every year will be 5%, which is better than my bank interest. So I thought I would invest in Reliance. Okay. What is Ambani going to do? At the end of the year, he is sitting on too much of money, too much of profits have been declared by the company. He is sitting on this money. So what Ambani wants to do now is yeah, he wants to, since he is the majority shareholder, he will take decisions about how to spend the money. He decides entire profits must be given to BJP as a as a contribution. That BJP is running the government very well. So hence, I would like BJP to once again come back to power. So I would want to give the entire profits to BJP. So do you think it should be allowed or it should not be allowed? Hmm? Can it be allowed? No. Why? Because that is not the idea with which I, as a minority shareholder, had invested in the company. I wanted to make money. That is why I invested my money. I did not invest so that BJP can grow at my 10 lakh rupees. Instead of giving it to Ambani, if I would have put it in my bank, I would have at least got interest, right? So And why is Ambani giving this money to BJP? Maybe he has other businesses. He may have other listed companies. He may have Ambani Ports, Reliance Infrastructure, Reliance Capital, other companies. He is expecting favors from BJP. For that, he is taking the money from Reliance Industries and giving it to BJP so that BJP can favor his other companies by giving favorable contracts. But I am not going to get any benefit as a minority shareholder in this process. That is why Companies Act before 2017 it had a provision. It said that a company, a corporate registered company cannot donate more than 7.5% of last 3 years annual profits. This is the maximum ceiling limit that was kept so as to protect the interest of minority shareholders. Okay. Not just for that, this is a reasonable accepted limit. Okay, you cannot take the entire profit and give it to a party. For the why would you think a corporate company will be interested in giving away entire profits to a political party just to get back returns, right? So this is another clause which was actually another section which was there in Companies Act, which was actually amended. This was taken out. Now there is no maximum ceiling limit. Any amount can be contributed. This is seriously affecting the transparency associated with corporate funding of elections in India. Common man is the one who is going to get affected because of these issues. Removing the maximum cap ceiling limit, now corporates want to donate favorable Adani or Ambani. They may want to donate as much as possible to BJP so as to once again get back the profits in multifold returns. Okay, just give me a minute. Hello? Class. So, yes. So this is leading to what can be called as crony capitalism, right? So basically, the politicians, once they come back to power, they will only be interested in serving these masters, capitalist masters, and not to serve the interest of the public. It definitely affects the quality of democracy that we actually have in India. So that is why we have these kind of ceiling limits and all. That everything should be within certain limits. Just because you have money, it doesn't mean that you can just donate as much as possible. Then it would lead to corporates influencing the decisions of the government. Such a government will not be working for the benefit of the common man. So this is also removed. This is one way of how the transparency has got actually affected. So this also can be brought in as a point in your answer. And more serious an amendment, a very serious amendment, is with respect to changing certain provisions in Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. So I'll ask you a question first. Do you think foreign countries can actually make donations? Foreign countries or foreign companies, can they make donations for elections in India? Is it possible? Alibaba is a foreign Chinese company. Can we allow Alibaba to make donations to BJP party? If so, Alibaba can make 10 times the donation of probably what Ambani or Adani is making. Alibaba would be happy to make such donations also. Correct? So there is a reason why foreign companies are prevented from political contributions. Can you tell me what is the reason for that? What would be the reason why foreign companies are prevented from making contributions to political parties? What would be the possible reason for that? Yeah, it actually affects your sovereignty in the first place. That's very correct. It affects sovereignty. That is the correct answer. So that would be the same repeat of British Raj. Our country will become a colony of some other foreign country. And see, as per the estimated report, going report, price of each MP, you give 25 crores, 20 crores to one MP, he is ready to switch sides. The price of buying one MP in today, from various news articles and all that we actually read, is what 20 crores. You have 20 crores, you can buy off an MP. So think, for 500 MPs, what is to have a majority in Lok Sabha? How much do you actually need? 300 MPs. To buy 300 MPs, how much money do you have to spend? 60, 600. See, if you have 6,000 crore, you can actually buy the entire parliament. Correct? That is the idea. So any rich country can just come and exercise its influence by directly influencing the decisions if we allow foreign funding into India. Okay, so that is why we had a policy, very clear policy from the beginning. Foreign contributions are not entertained for political purposes in India. That is the provision in Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. FCRA prevents foreign contribution of foreign companies into India. Okay, this is one reason. The other reason is you actually don't know how that money is earned, because a foreign company is not compliant to Indian tax laws, right? Let's say in Mauritius you have a company registered. That company's only work is money laundering. Okay, money laundering and okay, let's say the company is involved in smuggling of drugs. That's the main source of income for that particular company. And Mauritius tax laws are all very lax. So the company is registered in Mauritius. Now that company wants to fund BJP politicians in India. They are ready to fund with 2,000 crore for the upcoming election. And why would they want to fund? And why would they want to fund? Maybe they want a BJP government, once it comes to power, they want to liberalize the checks along the border. They wanted to liberalize the check that happens in the customs, in airports and ports, so that drug movement can happen very freely inside the country. Okay, that is also another reason why we do not allow foreign companies to come and fund political parties in India, because we don't know how that money is earned, because they don't comply to Indian tax laws. We definitely know how Ambani makes money, how Adani makes money. They have to submit their balance sheet. They have to submit all their vouchers. So we know that there is a clear, transparent, honest business that is happening behind the source of money. But behind those source of money, we don't actually have such details, right? So that is why we don't allow foreign contributions. But even those amendments have been recently brought, because of which even foreign companies can now fund elections in India. This is a very serious measure, which is seriously risky also. So BJP doesn't seem to be worried about its consequences and all. Any source of money, every source of money, as long as it comes to me, I'm happy with that. That seems to be the BJP stand of receiving political donations. So they have made some amendments. What amendments they have made? As long as a particular company has a ownership, let's say Vedanta. Vedanta is actually a foreign company registered in London Stock Exchange, but run by a Indian NRI, some Anil Agarwal. Anil Agarwal, an Indian NRI, he's the owner of Vedanta, but he owns 51% of the company. 49% is of the public listed in London, right? But he's an Indian NRI, but he's an Indian born NRI, I think. So his ownership is more than 51%. Okay, 51%. So it is considered to be a foreign company as per the definition of FEMA, Foreign Exchange Management Act. Any company where the ownership is more than 50, majority ownership is in the hand of the foreign individual, the company will be called as a foreign company. So basically, that company should not be allowed to fund elections in India, but some amendments have been made. What is that amendment? The amendment that was made for FCRA was that, so let's say Vedanta is involved in mining of bauxite, mining of steel mining. Okay, you look at and do you think for all sectors in India, foreign direct investments are allowed at the same upper limit? What I'm asking is, you know that some sectors have 51% upper cap, 49% cap on foreign direct investments. Some sectors have 74% cap on foreign direct investments. When it comes to defense, probably it might be 26% of cap on foreign direct investments, right? Are you aware of these kind of sectoral caps? Are you aware of that? For each different sector, there are different caps on how much money can be allowed as foreign direct investments, right? So let's say iron and steel sector has a foreign direct investment of up to 74%. In iron and steel sector, we have a foreign direct investment cap of 74%. And what is the shareholding of Anil Agarwal? A foreign, he may be Indian born, but the company is majorly owned by foreign individuals. So Vedanta is a foreign company with 51% of foreign capital being deployed in the company. So as of now, it's called as a foreign company. But because of this amendment, Now it will not come under the definition of foreign company. Why? The amendment says we should first look at the business in which Vedanta is employed in. Vedanta is in the process of mining bauxite and iron and steel. Okay. Now look at the sectoral cap. It is 74%. So foreign direct investment up to 74% is allowed. Abhina, unless the ownership of Vedanta becomes more than 74% held by foreign, until that happens, we can accept money from even from such companies. So the new jugglery that has been done by the government was it tried to link the definition of foreign company with the sectoral caps given in Foreign Exchange Management Act. Okay, in FEMA you have those sectoral caps for iron and steel, for cement sector, for power sector. What are the different sectoral caps? So if a company is in that particular sector, up to that maximum sectoral cap, foreign capital is allowed, even if it is held by foreigners. No problem, you can still accept donations. This is the These are some of the changes that have been brought in the context of campaign financing. Campaign financing means election related issues. So all these kind of changes and its impacts, what are they? That is how you'll have to write an answer for this particular question. So in addition to that, you go through this document which I have shared, you will get very wonderful insights on how political financing has been happening in India. How is it all getting advantages to BJP? This is just one article, and you can even refer, there are some 3-4 articles in same ORF relating to elections and expenditures. Okay, so if you have time, you go through the articles, develop your perspectives, face these kind of questions which can make you think, which can really make you think and make you struggle about, I'm not able to get even 1 point, I'm not able to get even 2 points. Those kind of questions can help you train yourself better, right? So all right, so we'll stop here, we'll conclude here, and we will carry forward our discussions of the remaining part of elections in the next class. In addition to that, we'll also discuss about tribunals and quasi-judicial bodies. So please repeat the Amendment to Companies Act. Okay, Amendment to Companies Act. The definition of the Amendment to Companies Act. There is a particular section in Companies Act which limits the maximum contribution that can be made by one corporate company to a political party. What was the maximum limit? Not more than 7.5% of last 3 years annual profits. Okay, that was the last 3 years. You take the annual profits. Out of that, not more than 7.5% can be given as donation. That is remaining 92.5%. It should be kept with the company, or it should be given to as a dividends to the shareholders. But latest amendment, that ceiling limit was removed. Now any amount of money can be donated to the political parties. So this is like openly making political parties. This is actually a trend towards crony capitalism, which is not healthy for democracy. That is the idea. Okay. All right. So we'll stop here and we will continue tomorrow. Okay. Okay. Thank you.